Why am I buying Jasmy instead of Bitcoin? The answer is very simple, because I believe that hypothetically, it has a lot more room to grow. And I am in the world of cryptocurrencies, after all, to look for potential upside. And of course, nothing I say is financial advice nor a guarantee. But here's the thing. If, let's say, for instance, hypothetically, if Jasmy were to go to the price of $1, considering current circulating supply, at that point, market cap would be around $50 billion. Now, that is around a 50x from here. Now, you may be thinking, okay, how about Bitcoin? Doesn't it have a lot of room to grow? I do believe that it could hypothetically go to the price of $150,000 during this bull run. But doing a 50x, especially during this bull run, I think is way out of the question. Because, for instance, if Bitcoin were to do a 50x from here, at that point, market cap, considering current circulating supply, would be around $60 trillion. I mean, let this sink in, right? A $60 trillion market cap. The GDP of the UK back in 2022 was around $3 trillion. And the GDP of the USA, back in 2022 was around $25 trillion. So again, it's around a $60 trillion market cap, realistic for Bitcoin to reach during this bull run? I think highly unlikely. I mean, come on. At that point, Bitcoin would have a price of around $3 million. I mean, that's insane. Could Bitcoin go to the price of $1 million in the long term? Hypothetically, but $3 million. I mean, especially during this bull run, that's just complete nonsense. Which is why I think that Jasmy is just a much better pick for me. Now, some people may argue that, hey, there's a lot of institutional investors for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin ETF is so amazing. And I agree with that. There's no denying that Bitcoin is very special in that sense. But I think in terms of its use case, it's not really that diverse because primarily it's just a store of value. And even though a lot of altcoins do depend on Bitcoin, that's the exact reason why I love Jasmy so much, because usually when Bitcoin does pump, typically altcoins, they increase by a lot more in terms of percentage. But consequently, on the flip side, if Bitcoin does dump, usually, altcoins do go down by a lot more in terms of percentage. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, but I'm willing to take that because even though a lot of people out there, they like to say that, hey, they're all in on Bitcoin. Well, a lot of these people, in some cases, they have like millions of dollars. So let's say they put like, a couple $1 million, does a 2 or 3x. They're all good at that point. That's time for them to go to Sizzler or whatnot, Applebee's, right? But if someone doesn't have like millions of dollars, I just don't get why I would choose Bitcoin, personally speaking. Like, if for instance, even if I had a budget of like $10 million, let's say, hypothetically, why would I put like 100% in Bitcoin? I wouldn't do that. I would put only like 5%, maybe 95%, just all into altcoins. Because again, just much more room to grow. I'm not looking for 2 or 3x, right? I'm looking for something that could hypothetically be so amazing. And when it comes to Jasmy, why would it not be amazing? I mean, you got to think about this. They're focused on such a niche market that hasn't really gained a lot of attention yet because after all, people, they're really focused on AI. Me too. They're focused on, meme coins. I like them too. However, in my opinion, what is a market that's often ignored? That's the data storage market. And that's exactly what Jasmy is focused on. And not only are they focused on that, but they're looking to decentralize data storage. That's how amazing they are. After all, they are focused on data democracy. And let's not forget, they're even legally compliant in the country of Japan, which is kind of insane to think about in a good way, of course, because that's no easy task. But even besides that, we take a look at how the data storage market, according to Fortune Business Insights, by 2030 is predicted to be worth, nearly $800 billion. So yeah, that's insane. $800 billion. I mean, just take that into consideration. Bigger than some countries' GDP. That's kind of ridiculous. And just imagine, they're looking to revolutionize that market through decentralization. That's how amazing they are. And it's not like it doesn't need decentralization because if you take a look at it, what are the benefits of decentralization in this case for the data storage market? It's quite essentially removing a lot of the drawbacks that we see today because usually a lot of data storage that we see nowadays, typically very centralized. Usually these single points of failures. Also on top of that, typically controlled by a single entity, and some people, they don't really like it. So what is a remedy, so to speak, right? Decentralization, much like Jasmy, a decentralized data storage solution, quite essentially, changing all that. That's how amazing Jasmy is. But also take this into consideration. They're in such a prime position because they don't have that many good competitors as of right now, contrary to popular belief. People like to say, oh, why choose Jasmy? There's like hundreds of good competitors. No, that's not true, actually, because I like the data storage market. I focus on projects that are focused on data storage, and I know the good ones. For instance, hypothetically, if you don't believe that these are the good ones, it's just my opinion. But besides that, for instance, you take a look at Arweave, Filecoin, you take a look at storage. There are some others that are okay, but, Those are kind of the top, right? But really, amongst that list, what stands out the most is JASMY. Has the strongest community, strongest brand recognition. And also on top of that, it's just a very passionate community overall. But even beyond that, even if you take a look at that, that's actually not that many options. Like imagine if we're buying cars and there's only 5 brands to choose from, let's say. That's actually not that much. It's actually very little in the grand scheme of things. So if you think about it, not having that many good competitors, that's actually going to play to the advantage of JASMY, because guess what happens once enterprises fully start adopting, decentralized data storage solutions? They don't really have that many options. So naturally, something like JASMY is going to have a higher probability to be chosen. After all, it is the most, well-known out there, I would say, arguably. So I think this does play to the advantage of JASMY. And also JASMY, much like its, decent and good competitors, even though there's not that many, the thing is that they're in a prime position to catch the wave. Why is that? It's because you take a look at, again, the wave for decentralized data storage solutions. It hasn't really kicked in yet. So guess what happens when the wave finally does come? They're going to be able to catch that. Because in my opinion, it's much better anticipating, something as opposed to chasing it. Let's say I want to surf in the ocean and I'm on a board and then there's a wave like 60 feet away. Can I outrun that? Can I just chase it randomly? No, that's impossible. But if I put myself in a prime position to, catch the wave, then I'm going to have a good time, right? Then I'll probably have, a good time surfing. So that's why I think it's much better anticipating as opposed to chasing. And JASMY, again, much like its competitors, I think they do understand this, which is why they're focused on it right now. So when it comes to JASMY, they pretty much don't miss. And again, right, legally compliant in the country of Japan, that's so incredible. And why would I expect anything less, actually? Because you take a look at its team is A+, filled with many individuals who've worked at places like KPMG. Keep in mind, that's one of the big 4 accounting firms. That's insane. Also, many individuals in their team used to work at Sony. Sony's pretty much one of the biggest things out there. Have you heard about, just Sony in general, right? That's such a famous company in Japan. So the way I view it is that JASMY is really such an amazing project. I mean, it's fantastic, but sometimes people don't realize that because they're like, oh, wow, the name, all this type of stuff. But come on, man, it's actually very fantastic, hypothetically, because at the price of $1, I really don't see why not. Keep in mind, again, I did mention earlier on the video, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $50 billion. You take a look at Doge at one point reached over $80 billion. Come on, man. This isn't too much to ask for. We've seen BNB reach over $100 billion in market cap. And is BNB as great as this? I mean, come on. JASMY is just much more evolutionary. I think it's more enticing, more exciting. So I don't see why not. You take a look back in 2023, even according to Crypto.com research, slightly over 2% of the crypto hacks that happened actually occurred on the BNB smart chain ecosystem. Is that a good look for BNB? Hypothetically, I don't think so. So if BNB can reach over 100 billion, if Doge can reach over 80 billion, why can't JASMY at least reach around 50 billion? The community is amazing. Again, fantastic fundamentals, A+ use case. I don't see why not. I think the sky is the limit when it comes to JASMY. Yeah, sure, is the price doing the best as of right now? Now, granted, it's doing very well ever since I started talking about it, but it's having, a little bit of a pullback. But hey, a lot of altcoins are too. But I think better days are ahead. And JASMY's listed in a lot of major exchanges, so I don't think that it's going to disappear off of the abyss anytime soon. It has great exposure. People can't believe in something that they don't know exists, which is why, again, I think there's so many bullish factors for JASMY. Listed in so many exchanges, amazing awareness, in terms of the community, people knowing about it in a sense. And again, you combine that with fantastic A+ use cases. I think this is pretty much one of the best projects out there, in my opinion. Not financial advice, though. And also, this bull run could be so magical. Why would I waste that chance just going all in on Bitcoin? I'm not going to do that. Think about this, right? Over 600 million crypto owners, according to Crypto.com research, more than ever before in history. You take a look at the Bitcoin ETF, the number of institutional investors. It's just amazing. Again, just like I mentioned earlier in the video. And again, I'm not saying that Bitcoin is bad. I think it's going to do well. But I think that when Bitcoin reaches the price of $150,000, at that point, that's not really much upside from Bitcoin at this point. But if Bitcoin were to reach that, altcoins, they're going to do so amazing. Much like JASMY at the price of $1, hypothetically at that point, that's really possible. When the FOMO kicks in, buying pressure, buying volume, when people really start looking into altcoins again, it's going to be amazing. But it's just a waiting game at this point. I can't just wave some magic wand and demand the price of JASMY to pump like today or whatever. And I can't do that. It's going to take some time. As a worst case scenario, by the way, it's been noted that historically speaking, altcoins have peaked around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. The Bitcoin halving event just happened back in April. So around 18 months from then, that's around October of next year, basically near the end of 2025. But even despite that, is that necessarily a bad thing? No, because if anything, it's actually more time for me to accumulate JASMY. So I don't mind. Again, all I got to do is just stay patient, just acquiring, holding anytime earn income, and just staying patient, really. That's all I can control. Because if I start focusing on things that are beyond my control, like what happens to the price every 2 minutes, 2 hours, I'm going to drive myself crazy. I don't like that, right? I just want to focus on things, again, that I can control, that are within, my factors, I would say, right? Like not giving up, believing, staying consistent. That's it. That's what I can control. So I'm going to still believe in JASMY because hypothetically, I do believe there's much more percentage upside at this point when compared to something like Bitcoin. But again, not financial advice, which is why, I'm buying JASMY instead of Bitcoin. I don't own any Bitcoin and I don't want to because I think JASMY is just a much better pick for me. And hypothetically, at the price of $1 during this bull run, I don't see why not. With all those amazing factors, I think it could very well be a reality during this bull run, hypothetically speaking. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.